You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
Mark Johnson is the area executive for Newbridge Bank. Alan Efting is mortgage manager for Newbridge Bank in Wilmington, and they're our guests for this segment of Byline. We've been talking about mortgages, interest rates, and credit card issues, banking. And before we went to break, we were talking about Newbridge and the size it is. It's certainly not what is like a Bank of America, which is a national, what I call mega bank. Some would say it's too big to fail. How do you compete in the marketplace with entities like that?
Well, we certainly have our place in the market, and community banks in general. We really service the small and medium-sized businesses. That is our expertise. That is our target. And in doing that,
what about consumers?
Oh, absolutely, the consumer side. We have all products and service basically that a big bank could provide, but we just do it on a smaller scale.
Maybe I'll ask, what's the difference?
I'll tell you the difference. Newbridge Bank has 4 very simple principles, and you've heard them before. It's always do your best, do what is right, treat others as you want to be treated, and financial success begins with integrity. And those are our guiding principles of our bank. And those guiding principles.
So you say when you walk into Newbridge, as opposed, I've been using Bank of America because they're so big as an example, you get treated differently?
Absolutely.
You do?
We keep those in mind. It is safe to say that if you ask almost any employee at Newbridge Bank, they could repeat those 4 guiding principles. And that's very important because it comes down to our people. It's how we treat people.
I'm going to get a call from Bank of America saying we got to come out and tell people how we treat people. Let's talk about credit cards.
Yes, sir.
How have things changed over the last couple of years as far as getting a credit card? Because I still get, of course I have good credit, but I still get solicitations all the time. Take your money out, we'll pay it off. The same kind of deals that they were offering before this all happened.
Right. I think the largest piece as of late in 2009, some legislation passed, the Credit Card Act. I'm sure you've heard of that. And that really, there was some egregious practices out there in the community or in the nation from credit card companies, really severe increasing rates with very little notice, excessive fees, et cetera. And that act has done
it's put a stop to that?
It certainly
reeled it in some?
It has reeled it in. I mean, the credit card companies certainly have to still make money and charge rates, fees, et cetera, but they have, there are many.
They have more guidelines to go under?
Absolutely.
What determines the interest rate a customer is offered?
Well, the credit card company.
Period?
Yes.
And if you like it, good, and if you don't?
That's right. And you'll see some start at 0%. Those are still out there, although fewer, but usually you get starting rates of 9 to 12% or so.
Would it be accurate to say that people with the least means usually pay the highest interest rates and are probably the ones most likely to default? Or is that a general statement?
I think it's a very general statement. I don't know that I could answer that accurately.
Is it harder to get credit today than it was 2 or 3 years ago?
Yes, sir. Yeah. It is.
Well, it may be accurate to say that the more you think you need a credit card, the higher your interest rate will be.
Right.
If you're desperate for a credit card,
it is more difficult to get credit card. Just like as Alan and I were stating, the way that their applications are scrutinized and underwritten are much tighter.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Yes, sir.
Critics say that banks actually want folks to rely heavily on credit and keep a very high balance that never gets paid off because that interest is a major source of bank revenue.
That interest is a major source of bank revenue. However, irregardless of credit cards or any type of lending, we want quality clients, and we want those that pay back. We are not in any other business but to collect interest.
How big a business is credit card business for a bank?
Well, for our bank, it's not.
It's
fractional compared to a Bank of America, some of the larger banks, Citibank, et cetera. But for those banks, it is a huge part of their balance sheets and income statement.
And there have been rumors now for a while that free checking is being phased out at some banks because new banking regulations are cutting into other banking revenue.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
You will see in our community alone, there's, again, our free checking has changed tremendously. In fact, we do now require minimum balance, and most banks in
Minimum
this
balance for
community-
free checking?
Well, a minimum balance to avoid service fees, correct.
I got you.
So, the bigger banks are also requiring it. Basically, you have to go almost all electronic banking to get the free. So it has changed tremendously.
Yeah, when I was a young man, many years ago, checks were 10 cents a piece. And I mean, this
that's
was
right.
growing up.
That's right.
When I went to free checking, now I realize that the banks started to rely on other revenues. So to lure customers in, they use the free checking.
That's right, and it provides some capital as well. And I think it all comes down to, and what banks are finding is, do you want to be a bank of the masses, or do you look at a smaller scope of clients?
We're almost out of time, but again, when I was young, if I wanted to buy a used car, I would go into a bank that I banked at. I would sit down with a loan officer. I'd say, I bank with you. I'm looking to buy a used car. Could you loan me $1,500?
Sure.
And they would say, yes, Mr. Ansel, you've been with us a while. We'll loan you $1,500. Here's your pay back, so much a month. And when you paid it back, you built up your. Are there consumer loans anymore?
Absolutely.
There are.
There
you
are
can go into a
loans.
bank.
Absolutely. If you came
and
to
sit
us,
down with it and say,
we could look at that very same transaction today as you did years ago.
That's
there are other avenues of obtaining those, obtaining that type of loan, such as right there on the car lot, you can go and get a loan right there. So,
well, it all depends on who gives you the best deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about small business loans? There's a lot of talk about small business and how business can finance itself today.
Well, I'm very glad you asked that, because small business lending is something that we're very proud of. We support our small businesses. There are some, SBA has come out with some fantastic products as well to assist banks, and through their express loans, their 7A and their 504 lending programs, and they have really reeled, essentially there are no fees, and they've increased the amount of lending that can take place.
You're doing small business loans today?
Absolutely, yes sir,
Newbridge.
every day. We have a lot that are getting ready to close this month. So.
We're out of time.
Yes sir.
Wow.
Mark Johnson, I know. Alan
That goes by
Epting,
quick. Thank you.
It flies by. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Next week, are the Hammerheads getting ready to return? Is professional soccer coming back to Wilmington? We'll get an official announcement next week from the coach, David Irving, and owner, Bill Rudisil. I'm Don Ansel for Byline Wilmington. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Thank you, Don.
You've been watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Join us every Sunday morning as we explore the issues that concern you.